tell me, what made the queen go all ice crazy?
Oh, well, it was all my fault. I got engaged, but then she freaked out because I'd only just met him, that day, and she said she wouldn't bless the marriage. And...
Wait, you got engaged to someone you just met that day?
Yeah, anyway, I got mad, and so she got mad, and then she tried to walk away, and I grabbed her glove.
Hang on. You mean to tell me you got engaged to someone you just met that day?
Yes, pay attention. But the thing is, she wore the gloves all the time. So I just thought maybe she has a thing about dirt.
Didn't your parents ever warn you about strangers?
Yes, they did.
Cinderella story.
You want answers?
We're on a mission from God.
Inconceivable! Take your stinking paws off me!
I'm afraid I can't do that.
Have fun storming the castle!
Hey everybody, welcome to the Story Cauldron, finding the folktales, fables, and philosophies behind your favorite Hollywood films. I'm Bobby, the movie dude.
I'm Anthony, the philosophy guy.
I'm Garrett, and I'm here.
Here on the Story Cauldron, we take about an hour to explore the stories behind the cinematic stories you love. Yeah, it's all Tolkien's fault, his description of the Cauldron of Story. I'm sorry, I can't do it. Why are we doing this movie, guys? Why?
Because you suggested it.
No, I did not.
Your daughter
What's wrong with
suggested
you? What movie are we doing today, Bobby?
Today we're going to be talking about the 2013 mega hit about how guilt, fear, and hiding from the world are all great if you sing catchy songs. It's Frozen.
God help us.
Yay! There are definitely going to be two sides to this podcast.
The right one and Garrett's.
Hey, Anthony, you can leave. Actually, please don't, because otherwise I don't think Bobby and I would be able to.
This podcast would be 5 minutes long.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen it far more than either of you.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, Garrett's
actually,
up
no.
there.
You might be right. You might be right.
I can still count it on one hand, so.
I've got. No, I won't say that.
All right. Well, let's start with the movie itself. Garrett, you want to tell us what the movie's about for all of those people who have been,
living under a rock?
I guess living under a rock. I was going to say lucky enough to pass up on the Let It Go craze.
All right. So Frozen. After Elsa accidentally hurts her sister Anna with her magical ice powers, her parents convince her to hide her mysterious abilities from the world. When they die suddenly, Elsa is left all alone, unable to control her magic and terrified that she'll hurt someone again. Eventually, the anxiety of her coronation day causes her to lose control and reveal herself to the kingdom, forcing her to flee into the wilderness. Anna is left to seek the help of a shaggy ice picker, Kristoff, his reindeer Sven, and Olaf the talking snowman to rescue her sister before the evil Hans manages to take over the kingdom. Spoiler alert, there's going to be a lot, but then again, welcome to the Story Cauldron, that's all we do.
That's right.
We're going to dissect this movie.
Yeah, this movie made a ton of money. I think that's probably literal.
Probably.
I mean, we're talking. It made over $1 billion just in ticket sales alone. It has. I mean, name an income record, and for Disney, it probably holds it. It's the highest grossing animated movie of all time. It's the highest grossing Disney movie. It was the highest grossing movie of 2013. It's actually the 9th highest grossing film of all time. I think that's right. Yeah, and I mean, it is an absolute phenomenon. And I think that almost goes without saying. I mean, it's won quite a few awards. It won the Oscar for Best Animated Movie that year that it came out, and for Best Song, for some reason. And now, oh my goodness, I mean, the amount of stuff that you can buy with these characters' faces on it. It doesn't even make sense.
Baby wipes.
You can buy
Legos.
a toilet seat. I don't know why you would want a toilet seat that looks like a Disney princess. But that doesn't matter. They don't have to make sense. They just
usually
have to make
a frozen toilet seat's bad.
Right? I'm saying. And yeah. So I mean, any kind of toy you can imagine, even ones that don't necessarily have anything to do with with the movie or with princesses or anything. I mean, you can get bowling sets and golf clubs, and you can get hand soap shaped like.
I'm sure you can get
Olaf.
fishing poles too.
Oh yeah,
Oh, totally.
I mean,
yeah.
sure, it is. Well, we'll put it this way: the November after the movie came out, it made $3 million just in costume sales.
Whoa.
So, the wait times at Disney parks to see the Elsa or the Anna actresses were upwards of 4 hours at times.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah.
I mean, it's the kind of success, financial success, that movie executives can really only dream of. I don't think there was any way to predict that it was going to be this unbelievably popular. So, and it's still going. I mean, just a few few weeks ago. When did that? Oh, it was in front of Coco.
Probably...
Yeah, it was in front of Coco. It was kind of contentious, but there was that. Olaf, 22-minute long short, which everyone said is way, way, way not short.
Yeah.
I mean,
Still haven't seen it, though.
Still going.
There's that short, and then there was a short last year, and that was the Frozen Fever.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen that. We haven't made it out to see Coco yet, so I have not seen the Olaf short. Although
What is it? Olaf's Frozen Adventure?
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
They've actually pulled it from the Coco release just because it was so long. People were complaining.
Wow.
Which I can kind of understand. I mean, you don't.
Yeah. You go to watch a movie, not
a half hour of other things before your movie.
a half hour of a dancing snowman. Granted, Frosty the Snowman is kind of the same, but
we will
totally
get
different.
to him in due time.
Yes, we will.
Okay, but my question is, Anthony, when was the first time you saw it?
Okay, so for those of you just tuning into the podcast, so I have 3 daughters. One of them is innocent because she's new, but the other 2 are 7 and 5, which means they were right smack dab in the middle of the crosshairs for Disney when this movie came out. And yet, I'm like, we don't go to the movies a lot with our kids, so we waited until, we weren't rushing out to see it. So I don't remember the first time that we watched it, but I know that it was on a DVD. So it was after the movie had been out for a while. They had probably already heard the music from somewhere because you can't escape it. I think even though we kind of asked people not to, we still got Christmas gifts for them that year of Frozen things, dolls, and whatnot. So I don't know. I mean, the movie came out in 2013. It was sometime in 2014 that we watched it for the first time. That's about all I can say. Because at this point now, it feels like I was born with it. So, yeah, because I don't know how many times we've seen it.
Okay. Yeah. Same for me. Not exactly.
I
don't remember exactly when I first saw it, but it was on DVD. So, and I'm pretty sure had something to do with your daughters.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So they just really wanted to watch it. Yeah, and I think Garrett actually had a hand in that too. Like, hey, we should watch this.
Actually, I think we own the DVD because of you. I think you bought it for us because I don't remember buying it myself.
I've never bought Frozen. I borrowed it from you.
Oh, no, that's why you're in my head. Yeah, you borrowed it from me.
I borrowed it, and I gave it back, even though you really didn't want me to.
I'm just going to blame you anyway because I need someone to blame.
It's okay. We'll just fight the entire time. The first time that I saw it was, I think, 6 months or so after it actually came out. Mm-hmm. I was sitting in auditions for a musical, and I remember 3 people singing "Let It Go," and I was like, "What is this? I don't know what any of this is," and it kind of made me not want to watch it. And then I went to my friend's house, and she's like, "We have to watch it," so we did, and I liked it. It was fun. I remember saying exactly the whole Anna Hans thing. I remember saying the exact words that Kristoff would say 5 minutes later in the film, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then we took the quizzes, and I got Kristoff. And I was like, hey, okay, cool.
Which character are you quizzes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, junior in high school, and BuzzFeed rules the world.
It did in 2013, that's for sure.
Yeah. And, of course, Garrett does play a character.
I play Kristoff from Frozen for things, so I enjoy it, unlike others.
Well, and you have to understand, there's two reasons here. One is that any movie that you're oversaturated with, you're going to not really appreciate, and that that's part of my problem. The other one is that I objectively think it's not that great of a movie, but that's where we can argue here in a bit. And the other thing is, for us, we had the soundtrack also, so you'd get bombarded.
See, I would listen to the soundtrack more than I'd watch the movie, but I also am not like a Frozen toy collector, so that helps too, not having it all around the house.
Well, and now we're doing so much better now. I mean, time goes on, crazes die down.
Time heals all wounds.
Well, yeah, when it comes to Disney princesses controlling your world, I suppose the girls grow out of it, and it gets replaced by Moana, Kate. Yeah,
I just have to ask the lightsabers that Melissa and I and Garrett got the girls a couple years ago. Did that help?
Well, yes and no. It solved one problem and created several others. So mainly surrounding bruises and broken things. But
gotcha.
Get it.
But that was fun.
Growing pains.
Yes. So, okay. Now, I will promise you, though, I am not just going to spend the next 40 minutes insulting Frozen, although I do think that would be personally entertaining. I'll be kind.
Just look at it for what it is.
For what it is.
That's what we're going to ask of you.
A steaming pile? No. Never mind.
All right. So, that brings us to basically, what is this story?
Well,
I'll let Garrett take that one.
All right.
Well, it was adapted from Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen.
Can we throw loosely in there?
What?
Can we throw loosely in there?
I was just about to say very loosely, considering it's almost a completely different story.
Like it's a story about a queen in some snow.
Yeah, the queen of the snow bees.
Bees?
Snow bees.
Oh, that's right.
Because grandma's telling stories to their kids. They can't just be snowflakes. They have to be snow bees.
Yes. You're going to have to remind me of that. Like, we read through The Snow Queen with the girls, and I had never read it before.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was just, I missed that one. And I remember thinking, and then moving on. Like, it really didn't strike me that much. I'm sorry. Sorry, Garrett, the look on your face right now, you look so disappointed in me.
Well, The Snow Queen was one of those stories. I remember there was a book of it at our library, and I think that is the book that I rented the most from our library. Because I would just go and get it, bring it back, read like 2 more books, get The Snow Queen, and then bring it back. I don't know.
Was it just The Snow Queen, or was it all of Hans Christian
It was just
Andersen
The Snow
stuff?
Queen for this one. And it was like an illustrated copy, blah, blah, blah. And I like pictures. So,
Okay, so what is The Snow Queen about?
So it's about a queen. No, just kidding.
What? You don't say.
So I think it was originally told in 7 parts, published in 1844 originally. And it starts out with a devil or a troll, whatever way you look at it, because it is Dutch. Or Dutch or Danish. Oh, I can't think. Anyway, a troll/devil makes a mirror that shows that whoever looks in it, they only see the ugly things in the world. They don't see the beautiful things. It just enhances all the ugly and not nice things about the world. So they are going around and making everybody laugh with it, and they decide they're going to take it up to heaven and point it at God, so it will show God all the ugly things. But the closer it gets to heaven, the more it vibrates and the heavier it gets, and it falls to earth and shatters into a billion of little sand-sized pieces.
Wait, hold on. It's a mirror?
Uh-huh.
So they were going to show it to God, and God would see his reflection, or they would show him the world in the mirror?
I don't know.
But it doesn't matter, because they don't actually get there.
They don't get there. They were going to point it at God so God could see all of the ugly in the world that he created, basically. They were going to be like, ha, 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 you messed up.
That is, I like that. That's a good way to start.
So anyway, the mirror falls, breaks into a billion little pieces, and then it gets caught up in the winds, and it gets lodged, and the little pieces get lodged in people's eyes and in people's hearts. And then that makes them cold and only see the ugliness in the world. So fast forward, there's two neighbor kids, Gerda and Kai, and Kai gets one of these slivers in his eye and one in his heart, and he freaks out, and he's like, no, like, you guys are awful, blah, 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 and he sees the Snow Queen, who beckons to him from outside, because the story is she's the queen of the snow bees, so where the snow bees are thickest, there's the Snow Queen. And
why is she beckoning to him?
She beckons to him, he freaks out, and then later he's playing in the park, and he latches onto a carriage that is the Snow Queen's carriage, and then gets taken to her castle.
So she just wants him
I guess so.
to come with her?
I never really could figure out why it was stated. It's been a little while since I've read this story. So then it's Gerda going on her way to find Kai, and there's all these trials and tribulations. Like, she gets stuck in a witch's house where it's eternally summer, and the witch puts a curse on her. She doesn't remember what she was doing or where she was until she sees a rose. And then she's like, oh, that was Kai and I's favorite flower. And then she remembers her mission. And then she goes, and I'm pretty sure she does this all without shoes.
Gotcha. All right.
Because, why not?
And basically she ends up meeting a prince and a princess. They help her along her way. She gets taken over by robbers. The little robber girl lends her reindeer, and then they go visit a Lap woman from Lapland.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a Finnish woman, where they say, oh, she is pure and innocent, and that is how she's going to be able to save him. That's basically her magic power. And so then she makes it to the Snow Queen's castle with help of, I think it's Bae, the reindeer, B-A-E. Yeah.
Sure.
Because, pop culture words. And she says the Lord's Prayer.
Andersen was a basic girl.
Oh, yeah, totally. She says the Lord's Prayer, and then angels appear
hold on.
like, it's a lot.
I do remember that. I remember thinking, why the Lord's
Because
Prayer?
the snowflake guards wouldn't let her in the snow castle.
And the Lord's Prayer is the solution to that.
And then angels came and helped.
Awesome.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, and then she makes it inside. She finds Kai, and then she basically gives him a kiss, and it melts his heart. So then he cries from the beauty of it all, and the mirror dislodges from his eye, and he can see the world for its beauty. And then to get out of the castle, Kai had to spell out the word eternity in ice pieces on the lake to get ice skates and be freed by the Snow Queen. And then they dance and they spell eternity, and then the reindeer takes them back, and then everything goes back to normal, and then they realize they're the ones that have changed, not their world around them. The end. Happy mid-1800s. Fairy tales.
Epic.
Sorry, that was a lot of rambling, but that's the Reader's Digested version.
Yeah, we have a collected works of Hans Christian Andersen, and most of them are 3-4 pages, and that one's like 25 something.
Yeah, so it's a lot. I skipped over a bit, but Google it. You can find copies of it for free, I think, online if you want to read it.
All right. Yeah, I actually have no experience with that story whatsoever. So,
okay, so having just heard that from Garrett,
yeah,
and you've seen Frozen.
I've seen Frozen.
What sounded familiar?
There's a reindeer.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yep,
that's it.
There's a reindeer.
That's about right. I mean, the production history of Frozen is complicated. I mean, because they did set out to adapt this Snow Queen, but they really had a problem finding a way to make it fit in a way that would make sense to the audience. I mean, in the Snow Queen, in the original Snow Queen story, the Snow Queen is hardly even in it, right?
Oh, she's barely there.
I mean, she shows up, she waves, she gives Kai some instructions, but she is notable mostly by her absence. And it's not really fair to call her a villain, is it? I mean,
I don't know. She did kidnap a child.
well, yeah, but that's like a dime a dozen in old fairy tales.
Yeah. Yeah.
She doesn't eat them. I mean,
I mean, pick a page in any type of old fairy tale.
yeah. But the idea of taking the Snow Queen and turning her into a main character, like a hero, even is, well, it's tricky. I mean, it's hard to take this not quite villainous character and turn her into not just a main character, but like a heroic character. They actually first started talking about adapting the Snow Queen into a Disney movie back in the 40s. Back when they were working through Snow White, and it was actually one of the first other ones that Disney had suggested, like Walt Disney had suggested doing, but they just couldn't figure out a storyline that worked. And then World War II came along, and they thought, well, they got awfully distracted there. And it wasn't until the 90s again where people started talking about it. But even then, it wasn't until the success of Tangled in 2011 that they thought, okay, let's really try to make this happen. Josh Gad said that he actually first became attached to the film really early on in the early 2000s, and he actually said that at that point Megan Mullally was slated to play Elsa.
Wow.
What?
Can you imagine that?
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it would be wild. Very different, obviously.
Only if
funny.
Nick Offerman was in it somehow as well.
Yeah, he'd have to be Kristoff then, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
I'd be down, totally.
Definitely.
But-
Or the merchant. Big
he
summer
would be
blowout.
great. Oh,
I thought you were talking about the Duke of
that
Wesselton.
Yeah, so did I. But no, that's
Either one.
that's really I
Yoo-hoo.
like that.
Big summer blowout.
Yoo-hoo.
All the breakfast foods.
All that to say that by the time they ended up cracking the script with what they ended up doing, they basically they added this other character, Anna. Well, they didn't add it. I mean, she's kind of based on Gerda, but rather than talking about Gerda and Kai, you have Gerda seeking to save the Snow Queen herself, right? So they're kind of simplifying the character structure there. And
there's a few bits in here where it's like, oh, this person is the same as this person. So like the Snow Queen and Kai would be the same person. Gerda would have been Anna. Bay would have turned into Kristoff and Sven, I think.
So you're saying that Kristoff is Bay?
Oh, I hate it so much.
Welcome to my world.
I'm glad I don't teach high school.
So this, in a way, is kind of impressive that they were able to take a story, which I think is, like you said, it is so... It makes sense within the cultural context of the 19th century. Like the idea that the Lord's Prayer is the solution to everything at the end. Well, yeah, of course, obviously. That would make sense in 19th century Denmark.
Yeah.
But to make that story work in 2013 USA, it's kind of a feat in its own right that they actually were able to tell a coherent narrative that people were interested in, even though they did have to change
Everything.
Yeah.
I even made a note that little robber girl is Olaf ? Because that was the only other one that I found that I put together with a character for Frozen.
Gotcha. All right.
I don't know. Helps the story along by being a friend.
Yeah.
I guess.
But yeah, I think in a way, Frozen is kind of like the movie Maleficent that came out around the same time. Wasn't that a...
It was about the same time. I don't know. I never watched it.
Oh, you never... That's
pretty good.
That was weirdly good, yeah. I mean, it took a while to see it because I thought it was going to be lame, but it was... I enjoyed it.
I haven't made it a priority or gotten around to it yet.
Gotcha.
Right. Well, but you know the idea, taking this old story and telling it from the villain's perspective.
Yeah.
Frozen is kind of like that, where, I mean, again, the Snow Queen isn't really a villain, but even if we want to say Kai, I mean, Kai kind of ends up becoming not really a villain again, because he's the victim of circumstance, but he's really not kind to Gerda. And
At least after the mirror bits get in his face and his heart.
right. So the movie Frozen is kind of like that, taking this not so savory character and explaining, well, here's where she's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And you really have to feel bad for her. I mean, she's Elsa goes through some pretty horrible parenting, and the product of that is pretty apparent. How psychologically damaged she
Well,
is
that
at
is
the beginning.
a large thing in pop culture, like as of recently, is the telling the story from the quote unquote villain's side of view.
Yeah,
So
more
you
of
have-
like an anti-hero type.
Yeah,
of
you have
scenario.
Wicked that does the
Right.
same thing.
Same idea.
They did the same thing. It's called Twisted, and it is the same. But Jafar in Aladdin, his story. I haven't actually seen it, but it's there.
Is that a movie?
It's
or
a musical, I believe.
Oh, cool.
But then you also see that in Frozen and Maleficent, and so
If you want the fancy word for that, it's contrapuntal.
ooh, that's a word that I probably will never use again. But
Yeah.
contrapuntal.
It's a contrapuntal narrative. Takes it from the it's like a counterpoint from the opposite side.
Gotcha. All right.
Isn't that fun?
Contrapuntal.
Whew. Just killed that momentum, didn't I? Well, okay. So what else do we think of when we think of Frozen? The movie as it stands now. We've got Olaf. That's
Talking snowman.
playing with some other ideas that maybe Hans Christian Andersen wouldn't have been familiar with, but
Definitely America.
yeah, definitely in our culture. That's right. Talking snowmen. I mean, you've got
Frosty.
Frosty the Snowman from 1950, and also from, well, I guess he's not Frosty the Snowman, but you've got that talking snowman in Rudolph, the Rudolph movie.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Jack Frost. And
I was
like,
thinking Jack Frost as well.
"Whoa, bringing it back.
Yeah.
I forgot that was a movie. That was with, who was that? Kevin.
No idea.
Michael Keaton.
Sitting on a shelf
Michael
at home.
Keaton, yeah. I stuck on Kevin Spacey, and I knew that wasn't right. Michael Keaton, yeah. No. Rudolph, yeah. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. He had that. He sings a song.
Can't think of his name, but he's got sunglasses.
And
Right.
a mustache.
and he's an elf, too.
And a cardigan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that, and for Olaf, he really fits a trope that's in a lot of Disney movies too, where you've got the kind of the quirky Disney sidekick, and a lot of them are things that shouldn't talk but do,
Yeah.
like Cogsworth and Lumiere from Beauty and the Beast, like Mushu from Mulan. You've got
Mushu
Sebastian.
really shouldn't exist anyway.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Oh,
but
dragons.
He's more like a lizard.
That's true.
Just don't tell him that.
Yeah.
Timon and Pumbaa. You know, they're these kooky sidekick characters. They're the comic relief. I mean, that whole song that Olaf sings is, you could take that song out of the movie and nothing would change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
He's just there to have fun.
My ideas on the music for Frozen, I read somewhere that in the beginning, Walt Disney wanted all of his movies that were going to have music, so like starting with Snow White, the music to not seem forced. He didn't want it to be like a movie musical for the time. He wanted it to be more like a Broadway musical for the time, where it just like the music just slipped in and you felt like it was a necessary part of the story. And I don't know, I kind of feel like Disney isn't necessarily doing that as much anymore because of things like In Summer, Olaf song, where it's just kind of oh, this isn't needed at all.
Yeah.
Well, and I would, that was something that when we watched Frozen, I noticed how different the music was, because it actually reminded me more of a Broadway show. There are several songs in that movie, in Frozen, that if you took it out, the plot would break. Like they advanced the plot. I'm thinking mainly about the one where Anna gets frozen at the end, where Anna and Elsa are singing back and forth to each other, and it ends with Elsa screaming, "I can't," and that's where she actually blasts her sister and causes her heart to start to freeze. Mm-hmm. Like, they're singing in a way that is, it's a part of the story, like a Broadway movie, as opposed to like a lot of them. I would say a lot of the songs in the Disney Renaissance period are not like that. Like, you could take them out.
Really?
Honestly, yeah. I think maybe I'm wrong here, but like, think of The Lion King. A lot of the songs support the plot, but none of them really advance the plot. With the possible exception of "Can You Feel the Love Tonight?" But even then, that's the only part that really advances is Timon and Pumbaa's lines, I think. I mean, "The Circle of Life" is just an introduction song. "I Just Can't Wait to Be King" is Simba proclaiming some stuff that happens to be true, but nothing happens over the course of the song. "Be Prepared," once again.
It's more exposition than it is like a plot movement.
Well, yeah, it's just kind of explaining the character motivations. It's letting you know about what they are like. Same with Aladdin. Like, think of the Genie song. It tells you everything you need to know about the genie, but nothing really happens in terms of the plot. But in Frozen, it does. In Frozen, you do have songs that move the story forward.
Well, yeah, there's
I don't know. When I was thinking of
those.
I was thinking of
that's
those
a good way. Yeah,
in Summer, which is Olaf's song. You know,
that one does not.
And "Reindeers Are Better Than People." It tells you about Kristoff and Sven. It doesn't necessarily move the story forward.
Well, I'm not saying every song in Frozen is like that. There were just a couple.
Yeah. Well,
And the most famous one is completely useless to the story. Let It Go. Here's my problem with Let It Go. It doesn't make sense. It is a depressing song. Like, if you actually listen to the words. I don't understand why people love it so much. I mean, I get it. It's catchy. Certainly the chord progression is, I mean, it is a pop song. It was designed to be a hit. But it doesn't, it's not the kind of thing that you should be proclaiming. Like, yes, I'm happy to give up everything I've ever loved. I'm happy to be alone now. I don't care about anything. I'm just going to go live by myself.
Just give up.
Just give up. That's right. That's pretty much what she's singing, right? And I never really cared anyway. Everything that she sings about in that song is immediately proved false within the next 10 minutes of the show.
I really want to fight you, but I know you'll win.
Well,
like, you're still not going to change my mind.
Sure.
But, like, I hear you. I'm taking it in. I'm just disagreeing.
Well, yeah, I mean, she talks about how she's never going back until she does.
Until she does. But, she doesn't know that she did all that bad stuff back there.
Well, okay, that's
she has to rectify the situation.
That's fair, but still.
And, like, she's being like, okay, you know what? I've been hiding myself. I'm ready to let my freak flag fly, even if it's by myself.
Well, and honestly, I think if they had just gone that route, if they could have made the song more of that kind of proclamation of being unique and being comfortable in your uniqueness. Like, I think that's what they were going for, and I think that's what a lot of people take it to be. But that is not what she says. She is not singing about being unique and just being awesome. She's singing about being alone, and that's sad.
I don't know. I like being alone sometimes.
Sometimes.
I mean, sometimes it's necessary, right? Self-care.
But I don't know. I think it's a stepping stone. It's not like, she's trying to make it definitive, but in the grand realm of the story, it's not going to be definitive.
Yeah, she's making definitive for what she believes is the situation at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's like what she's thinking until the circumstances change. Then she's got to change her thinking.
Yeah, I don't think you can really say she's been thinking a lot up to that point, though. I mean, because what do we know about her? She's locked in the tower because her dad gave her the worst advice in the world, and she doesn't know how to handle herself, and she is legitimately dangerous, and so she decides to just go live alone and be happy with her alone. I mean, it's not the kind of message that I think a lot of people actually want to support.
But that also is kind of like the reason it's not at the end of the movie.
Well, but that's the one everybody remembers. It's like,
Yeah, that's true.
it would be like if everyone celebrates the Star Wars movies because Han Solo got frozen in kryptonite. Like, that's not the end of the story, guys. That's the really sad part.
Or
And
because he shot first.
It gets better later on. Yeah, I mean, you don't celebrate the downward turn of the character. You celebrate what happens afterwards, and I don't know.
Well, it's like when we talked about the hero cycle. There's that failure and then the epiphany. It's like celebrating the failure before the epiphany.
Well, yeah, and I think that's one of the issues with this movie is that I think that now you can't fault a storyteller for not following the hero cycle because not every story has to do it. But it's almost like they were trying to do it and got it backwards because I could see an argument for saying that Elsa departs and then comes back changed. Yes, that's true. That happens in the most simplified structure of the hero saga. Then she would fit. But she doesn't have any guides along the way. She doesn't learn. She makes exactly one choice, and it's a choice that she would have made at the beginning anyway. So she hasn't learned anything except that she was wrong to begin with. Like, that's the one thing she learns from the beginning to the end, right? Is that she didn't have to hate herself, and she didn't have to be afraid of herself. Which is a good lesson. Like, don't get me wrong. That is good. But it's also not the hero cycle, even though Disney oftentimes tries to paint it up as... Like, I think they were trying to give that for Anna, but trying to split the focus between Anna and Elsa just got so hopelessly confused.
Yeah, I could see.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
And they can do it really well because, like, we just watched Tangled again the other night. That's a great movie. I think it's a really well done example of the hero's cycle, actually, for Rapunzel. It's like she follows through, like, beat by beat. It's really well done. So Disney could do it.
Yeah,
I think they got I think they got pulled in too many directions with this script.
well, I think the same is said for, like, Moana. I think they did a great job on that one.
In terms of making a movie or in terms of following the hero cycle?
Kind of both, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good movie. I like that.
And I mean that gives you the kind of the mentor and the failure, then the restructure, and finally turns into a positive.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're right about that. But I think one thing that people really liked a lot about Frozen was that it did take a lot of tropes and turn them on its head. Yeah. Like the true love's kiss thing. That is something that shows up in a lot of movies. That is a good, strong ingredient in the Story Cauldron. In fact, if I remember right, I think it's actually one... No. Tolkien does not talk about true love's kiss. He talks about love at first sight being an ingredient in the cauldron, which is kind of something you get in Frozen, you would think, Hans. But I know a lot of people were really impressed with the idea that they said that this is not a romantic movie. They're wrong. I mean, it is, but...
Not in the traditional sense.
But it's not in the sacrificial moment, the act of true love coming between two sisters as opposed to two romantic partners is okay. That's something that's different. It's certainly taking a lot of the other Disney movies and turning them upside down. It's very different from Snow White or Cinderella, the kind of classic Disney princess stories.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. It was refreshing in the fact that it didn't follow the same tropes and, like, basically Disney formula of the true love's kiss, or happily ever after in marital bliss, that type of thing. It was nice to see that there's different types of love in the world than just the
romantic love
the
that you
romantic
see in all the
love that you
movies.
see in these Disney fairy tales and stuff.
Yeah, and it's not the first Disney movie to do that, to expand and talk about different kinds of love, but it did do it in a decent way. I mean, I think if you're looking for an example of sisterly love in a Disney movie, there is at least one that I would put in front of Frozen, Lilo and Stitch.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, I mean, those sisters, no, that's love and care with no weird parental blocks in place. But it is a complicated conversation for us to have in English, because the word love in English is so overused and so ambiguous. I mean, the fact that you can say that you love your mom and you love pizza and you love your partner.
I love my dog.
And your dog. I mean, these are not all the same kinds of love, I hope. For the sake of all of those things involved.
I love pizza.
But we just have the one word
Yeah.
for it, and it gets confusing sometimes. There's a book, a good book, pointing this out, called The Four Loves by C.S. Lewis, a friend of Tolkien. He's a person that I think we can say was very familiar with the Snow Queen. If you look at
definitely,
The
yeah.
Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. He's got Snow
White
Queen,
Witch.
the White Witch, and a little boy who gets stuck on her sled. I don't know. In Andersen's Snow Queen, was there any Turkish delight?
No.
Whatever the heck that is.
It's candy, bro.
Is
Yeah,
it?
it's like
I don't
$40
even
a
know.
box at the candy store
It's
next to where I live.
expensive.
Yeah.
All right, no wonder Edmund was so excited about it. But Lewis, he talks about the four different words in Greek for love, and how you wouldn't be confused, because if you're talking about romantic love, you would use one word. And if you are talking about brotherly love, you would use an entirely different word. And so he kind of goes through each of the four different kinds of love that he's
And the word for
thinking
brotherly
about.
love is Philadelphia.
Close. Yeah, I mean, phileo is.
Yeah, that's the only one that I can kind of remember.
The city of brotherly love.
Yeah.
Adelphos is brother in Greek, and phileo is this kind of brotherly love. So yeah, Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love. So, but yeah, phileo, it's the same word, it's the same root that we get the word philosophy from. That kind of love based on common interest is technically what phileo is. Mm-hmm. Lewis says that when you share this kind of love with someone, the two of you stand side to side with each other. He says in romantic love, you stand face to face and you're looking in each other's eyes. But with phileo, you're standing shoulder to shoulder, both looking at something else, because you both share an interest in this other thing. And so obviously that's a very different kind of relationship. I mean, we are, it's funny that we're kind of trying to create words now in English, like bromance, to describe this kind of concept.
Very true. Yeah, yeah.
But it is still extremely different from I love you, man.
Yeah. Basically, you could just say that, like buddy cop movie or something like, is a bromance.
Sure.
And
Well,
it's totally different than Pretty Woman or something like that.
Well, and for Lewis, because he's kind of, the reason why he's going through these different loves is because he's looking at the Bible and the different kinds of loves that the Bible talks about. And so for him, as a Christian, he argues that the most impressive, the deepest kind of love is agape, which is sacrificial love. The love of the completely self-giving love.
Just totally unconditional.
Unconditional love, yeah. Which you see in Frozen there at the end. I mean, these four loves that Lewis talks about are not mutually exclusive. So ideally, you would have all four of them, because he talks about friendship love, this love based on common interest, romantic love, and sacrificial love. Ideally, you would have that Like with my wife, I would say that we share all four of those. We're attracted to each other, we share interests, we have a deep history with each other, and we are willing to sacrifice ourselves for each other. And so to get back to Frozen, since we've kind of gone off script here for a while, there at the end, that's that big sacrificial moment. You have a couple of people being willing to sacrifice themselves for each other. You've got Kristoff racing to try and save Anna, even though he's putting himself in danger. You've got Elsa choosing to go out and instead of stay and protect herself. And of course, you've got Anna literally putting herself in front of Hans's knife. And that's the thing that saves everybody. It's not true love's kiss. It's not romantic attraction, but it's because that's what it is in Sleeping Beauty. That's what it is in Snow White. Prince doesn't even know anything about her. He just knows that she's pretty and kisses her like a creep.
Yeah.
But here in Frozen, for all of the other things I might say about it, I will speak highly about this, that it does demonstrate that sacrificial choice at the end in a very nice way.
Yeah.
There you go. You got me to say something nice about it.
Woohoo! That was like pulling teeth, though. So
I'm just remembering, keep that clean rating. Keep
keep
that clean rating on
the clean
iTunes.
rating. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about what Frozen will be, because I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of projects in the works of just Frozen being relevant still 4 years later and continuing to be relevant. So
Well, we already talked about Olaf's Frozen adventure in front of Coco.
Yeah, which was I'm sure that it was decent short, but probably not short enough for
be
what
in
they
front of
wanted.
Coco.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think probably a lot of the people who are grumpy about it would like it in the right context.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right
probably.
situation.
Yeah.
And then Frozen Broadway, I think they're still currently in Denver doing their pre-Broadway run.
yeah, probably
So that's already there.
just building the show.
Are they actually? I had heard a rumor at one point that Kristen Bell and Adele Dazeem were going to actually like perform in the Broadway show. Is that true? Do you know?
Kristen Bell and Idina Menzel.
No.
Or,
Adele Dazeem.
I have no idea.
Oh, you don't remember? I'm not being crazy, right? That's John Travolta. You don't know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
What?
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so it was at the Oscars, I think, where John Travolta was supposed to introduce Idina Menzel, and he completely mispronounced her name. Like, it was absolutely comical. He said, "Yeah, the wickedly talented Adele Dazeem," and
she was like,
everyone said,
like, who?
"What?" So yeah, I mean,
Hello?
I know it's not her name, but that's kind of become her name. I'm surprised he did.
It's ringing a
sorry,
bell
I
now.
repressed it because I thought it was dumb and stupid.
Well, you are not wrong, sir.
So,
But anyway, I thought, were they going to be reprising their roles on Broadway?
not that I know of. I knew that they. I don't know. I was like keeping up on the casting stuff for it. So, and everybody that's in it seems to be pretty fresh faced.
Well, that's cool. That's good. Giving new people a
Yeah,
chance
that'll be
to go.
fun to watch someday. Maybe, I don't know.
And then Frozen 2, I have no idea.
Frozen 2 is scheduled to come out 2019.
All right. So probably in about 2 years, I would guess. Because I can't imagine him doing it
maybe.
any other time than like November, December.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you probably wouldn't want to. Well, I don't know. I guess it would depend on what the plot is.
That's true.
They haven't really said anything yet, but all of the cast is slated to come back. So,
Come out on Valentine's Day. I don't know.
which honestly, I like that had to be the least surprising announcement when they greenlit the sequel to that. Like, yeah, we just made $1 billion. I think we'd like to make some more billions of dollars. So,
Yeah. Can I get on that? I mean, I could use some extra money.
Hashtag Garrett for Christoph.
Yeah, Garrett for Christoph. And then
You know
he
what?
can
I'm okay with already
lend me some
being
money.
there, even just on the local level, so it's fine.
You do make a good Christoph.
Thank you.
We'll have to. Maybe I'll put a picture.
I'm glad
of
I can sing songs that don't move the plot forward.
But that I'm not saying that that's a bad thing necessarily.
Oh, I know.
I think that fits really well with some of the other ways that Disney does their shows, and that is one of the songs that I do like. Is his little
Reindeer are better than people.
his little guitar
Reindeers.
song.
Reindeers.
Bad grammar.
Even
It's
though they
fine.
smell.
It's fine.
He's shaggy.
So the question that we've all been waiting for: who would win in a fight, John McClane or Elsa?
Or Elsa.
Well, we've clearly seen that even though it looks like Elsa has a control over her powers, she really did not intend to make crazy killer snowman.
Yeah, I think in this movie, she's so wild that he would definitely have the leg up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if she had a better control, like maybe at the end of the movie or episode 2, whenever that comes out, maybe. She could do some damage. Her powers in this movie are weird. I mean, she can do all sorts of things that don't really seem to just be about ice.
Let's just not even talk about Frozen Fever.
Yeah, right.
We could change everything. Clothes colors.
So she could be quite a formidable force. Yeah, at least, especially at the start of this movie when she's still psychologically tormented. Yeah, I think he would just.
Yeah, because he's psychologically tormented in a different way that just makes him not care. So.
Yeah, that's right. He's so bitter and she's so guilty, and I think bitterness wins out over guilt.
I need to ask, what would you guys change?
So, if I could change some of the things about it, I would have loved to have seen what would have been done in, say, like the 40s with the Snow Queen in Walt Disney Studios. I think that would have been a really interesting way to look at it. It definitely wouldn't be what we have now.
You think it would follow the original story a little more?
I think it probably would. And if they made changes, it would still kind of... It wouldn't have been so far away from the original story.
Yeah.
There are other little things that I could change, but that would just come down to semantics. If I could change anything, I think it might be the reception and reaction. I think that maybe if it hadn't had gotten so big and hadn't have exploded everywhere, people might not dislike it as much, and people might give it a little bit more credence. It wouldn't have become such a big thing in pop culture that everybody was like, "Oh, a Frozen, that's dumb."
Yeah, just so inundated with Frozen everything that
Garrett,
and once something is successful too, people like to really kick dirt at it.
I got you. Yeah.
So I think that's some of the things that I would change. But I do like Frozen personally.
What is it that you do really like about it?
I really like the story. I've always liked the Snow Queen, so I think that sort of leached its way in, because I'm not gonna lie, the first time I saw it, I didn't even think that there was a correlation. I was like, oh, I can get down with this. I like the characters. We didn't even start to talk about the trolls, but love them.
Little Rolly Stones.
Then it had such a powerful cast behind it, and it was
It's true.
There was just so many positive things that I liked about it, even it coming down to the storyline, even though it might be kind of construed as, something that we shouldn't go for or things like that. I mean, it just, I don't know. Bits and pieces of it just really sort of hit home. So,
I think that if I could change something, it would be to try to tie some of the things together more, like the trolls. You're right. We didn't even get into talking about them because although they do play an important role in the story, the story is so disjointed. It moves from beat to beat in ways that are necessary, but it doesn't set itself up very well to come back around at the end. So, you've got this trolls at the beginning and then the trolls midway through, but I think you can talk clearly. You can talk about this movie for a long time and never even bring up the trolls because a lot of the other things that happen have nothing to do with them, and so
they're kind of a disconnected, disjointed part of the movie.
And that's like my beef with a lot of this. Like the Let It Go song could be it could work really well if it was placed differently in the movie. It's like you have all of these different moments in the movie that are just jumbled up, and it flows. I mean, you can string them together, but it doesn't connect as well. And so you don't use all of the characters as well. I mean, like I think the trolls could have been much more interesting if they were involved more heavily throughout. No. You have that merchant. Merchant's really funny. The merchant, but he's there, and then he's like you could take him out of the story, and it really wouldn't change all that much, except that not Hans, but Kristoff and Anna would need somewhere else to meet for the first time. So like it seems like the storyboard for the movie just wasn't thought out as well as it could.
It didn't flow as well as it
doesn't
could
flow.
Yeah.
And and that's the thing that bugs me about movies in general is when there's just stuff that doesn't seem to connect around to itself. If the beginning doesn't connect to the end, then it just bugs me. So I mean I'm not just like jumping on the Frozen hate train because it's cool. No pun intended. But I think it's sloppy sounds insulting. But
I just feel like the flow wasn't quite there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
and so that it ends up leaving you, or at least leaving me, with a message that I don't think it intended. And you're right, Garrett. I mean, it does have the freak flag fly message is a good one that should be trumpeted more. I wish that they would have brought that out more for Anna's. And for Elsa's story especially. You kind of get it with Anna too, but it's mainly Elsa's. All right. I wonder where the sequel will go.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to the sequel. To be honest, I'm not a big sequel person.
Yeah,
and Disney is not
known for their sequels.
There's a couple of exceptions, but no,
it's not like Evil Dead or Die Harder.
Frozen 2, even colder.
What about you, Bob? Would you change stuff?
I think I would. I don't know. Work on the flow of the movie again. Because I totally forgot there was even like the little troll guys in there. They're integral to the story, but also feel like they're just there. Like, oh, this is convenient. Let's throw them in.
They feel like a Deus ex machina, like this thing that just comes in and solves the problem and then leaves again.
Yeah,
when they're Kristoff's family, like they're not supposed to be this magical fixer upper. It's a bad joke.
But yeah, that's kind of what I feel. So I would like to see a little bit more connection between Kristoff and the trolls, or just something to work them into the story better, like a little more, and kind of make it flow better, just all together. But yeah, otherwise, I did enjoy the movie. I hadn't seen it nearly as many times as Anthony, so I still enjoy it. But he brings up a lot of good points, too. But that being said, yeah, it's enjoyable.
Sure.
So I'm sure I'd have a slightly different outlook on it if I had 3 daughters.
Go ahead, watch it. Woo!
Yeah, I mean, go for it. I thought it was enjoyable myself, and I think it's just kind of a good departure from the common Disney trope. So
yeah, I think that it does, like, so our daughters are roughly close in age, like Elsa and Anna are, and so it is nice for them to have a movie where they see 2 sisters, by the end at least, treating each other really well. It is a good kind of example for sisterly love there. And it is nice that Anna especially is going out and trying to be the hero as opposed to just being the princess to be saved. That's always something good to look for in a children's movie, especially a children's movie aimed at girls. And I think, I'm not one to ever say you shouldn't watch a movie. Even if I don't like it, there are going to be people out there who do. And I'm not going to say you're stupid. I'm just going to say I disagree. And if I want to push your buttons,
Just going to say
you're wrong.
make better choices.
Say, yeah, we can't be friends now. Well, no, but I'm not going to slap someone in the face for watching it. But at the same time, if somebody goes their whole life without watching it, I think that they can somehow get by.
So we're joined today by Anthony's daughters, Audrey and Ellie. And we wanted to see what they thought of Frozen. So say hi, girls.
Hi.
So what do you think of the movie?
We like it. You like it?
What is it about Frozen that you like so much?
Elsa, Anna,
Elsa and Anna?
everything.
Everything? You like Hans? Is he your favorite part of the movie?
No.
Kristoff. Ooh.
Yeah. You are Kristoff.
Of all the things that happen in the movie, what's the part that you remember the most? Like when you think of the movie, what do you like? Which part is your favorite part?
Elsa.
Elsa doing what?
Be nice.
You like Elsa being nice?
Yeah.
At the end?
Yeah.
And Elsa being mean.
What about when Elsa is real scared at the beginning of the movie?
I don't know. Not maybe.
You don't like that part?
No.
What do you think of Princess Anna?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
You guys like her?
Yeah.
All right.
And if you got to have lunch with Elsa or Anna or Olaf, who would you pick?
Olaf. Elsa. Both. All of them.
All of them?
Why would you pick Olaf?
Because he's funny. He's funny.
What would you do to the movie to make it better? Is there anything that you would change about it?
No Hans.
No Hans at all?
Yeah.
Oh. So what would the movie be then?
I don't know. Elena of Avalor.
Oh, it would just be a completely different story? Why don't you want Hans in the movie?
I don't know. He's mean. He tried to kill Elsa and Anna. Why?
And so you don't want him in there?
No, he tried to kill Olaf.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
When did he try to kill Olaf?
Fire.
Oh, with the fire.
Yeah.
Fire. Literal fire. Actually,
He was melting.
If you could bring snowmen to life, would you rather bring Olaf to life, or would you rather bring Marshmallow to life?
Olaf.
You don't want to bring Marshmallow?
No.
Why not? He seemed fun.
He would kill us. Only in the summer one.
In the summer one?
Elsa got sick.
in Frozen Fever.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I
When
love
all of the
those.
little snowball people come to life.
Yeah. I have that dress.
Oh.
That's the Elsa dress I have.
All right. If you could have anything in the world that was Frozen themed, what would you want? Like a toy or a car or what?
Real life.
A chicken. And Olaf.
Wait, you want a chicken? You want a frozen chicken?
Yeah. Olaf.
You want Olaf for real?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, is there anything else you want to say about Frozen before we go?
I don't know.
Should other people go see this movie?
Yes. See. Yes.
Yeah? Why? Why should people go see Frozen?
'Cause it's fun. Let it go. Yeah, let it go.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, Anthony.
Well, there's a reason why I have my feelings that I have about this movie.
Why?
Oh.
I've heard it once or twice or 4,000 times. Yeah.
I like how they're asking you the questions now.
Yeah, welcome
Yeah.
to my life. All right, girls. Anything else?
We're going to stay here forever.
Oh, do you like the Story Cauldron?
See.
You like being on the podcast?
See.
Do you think other people should listen to the podcast?
See.
Why?
It's fun. It's funny.
It's fun and funny?
Fun. It's funny.
Okay.
It's fun. It's funny. Fun.
I'll tell you what's funny. All right, well, thanks for being on the show today, girls.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Are you going to listen to the episode when it's all done?
See. See.
She's learning Spanish at school, so.
But we're going to stay here.
All right, thanks for coming in today, girls.
You're welcome. See. You're welcome. See.
Bye, friends.
Bye. All right, well, that brings us to the end of the hour. So I just want to give you guys a quick heads up out there. The Story Cauldron will be taking a quick break this next week to spend some time with our families over the holiday season. But don't fret, we'll be back January 10th with some of your favorite episode requests and our favorite episode requests.
Yeah, because you guys have done a good job of giving us some ideas for movies that we've not seen.
Yeah, so I'm excited. But yeah, thanks for joining us today on Story Cauldron. The music for this episode is from the band Hook Sounds.
And if you like what you heard, let us know what you think on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Just search for The Story Cauldron and tell me why I'm wrong or tell Garrett why I'm right.
And if you also want a slightly easier way maybe to get to those, you can go to thestorycauldron.com, and it has all of our social media info links, information about us and just the podcast in general. And don't forget to go to iTunes and leave us a review and rate us.
It helps other people to find our podcast and, helps thaw out our frozen hearts.
Which, Garrett, I love your frozen heart. I hope we can still be friends.
Oh, my heart's too frozen, sorry.
I think that means that your brother needs to die for you. That's the message I
Oh.
Sorry, Bobby.
Well,
before there's any sacrifices, let's
So, until next time, I guess.
Bye.